Yo, what is up everybody? How's it going? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the House of Salt, the show where we talk about video games, game design, and the games industry as a whole. So if you've been with us for the ride so far, thanks for coming back. But if this is your first time here, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy your time. I'm Bal, and today's discussion is going to be another pretty awesome and pretty important one where we discuss collaboration. And by the way, if you guys are interested in any particular topics or subjects, then just hit me up on Twitter or leave a message in the comments below, and we'll see if we can work them into this series. Remember, this is for you guys, so just let me know. And of course, as always, the thoughts and ideas here are my own and do not represent those of my company. So, legal mic drop. Let's go. So, our last few episodes have been working on learning different aspects of communication, and in fact, I've actually just been trying to build a solid foundation for you guys in that regard. This episode is actually going to be continuing that trend. And as such, the stuff we talk about here will still be relevant to all different disciplines. However, the context and the scenarios involved will be from particularly from a game design perspective. So during standard game development, most of your high-level design discussions will take place pretty early on in the project. This phase is commonly known as pre-production. Soon after pre-pro is when efforts will shift more towards more focused designs and granular details. And really just like fleshing things out in anticipation of either full production, maybe a prototype, or possibly even just like a vertical slice. During various different stages of development, you often find yourself coming together with others in order to, come up with ideas, directions, offer feedback, maybe solutions to some problems or something. The focus of which will vary depending on like what stage of development you're in or what the issue at hand is. And as is natural in working with a group of people, everyone is going to be coming to these meetings with their own particular thoughts, ideas, perspectives, or preferences, or everything. So that being said, whenever you're working in this type of environment, it's really important that you learn how to communicate and collaborate effectively. So this will include, paying attention and listening, providing feedback, maybe offering your own ideas, offering counterpoints or alternatives to something that's been proposed. And to do your best to ensure that any arguments or criticisms that are brought up are constructive. Things can get pretty heated during these discussions, especially when you get people with big personalities or that have pretty strong feelings towards a particular subject or direction. However, being overly combative or particularly overly negative with your feedback or criticisms will not help the discussion at all. And as a matter of fact, will often kind of result in the shutdown of communication between team members. So for example, sometimes when someone doesn't agree with a particular point or really isn't on board with a particular direction, oftentimes you'll hear them just simply say like, oh, I don't like it. But simply just saying something like that without adding anything quantifiable or actionable to the statement doesn't really help to inform, clarify position, offer an alternative to, or really solve anything. Like you've just stated an opinion. And you know what they say about people and opinions. However, if you were to present your concerns and adding details to the specifics, say for example you're not a fan of a particular camera that you've seen. So you break it down by saying, the perspective granted by this camera runs the risk of having the player feel claustrophobic and severely limits your peripheral vision. Those are specifics, and that's something that someone can actually start to understand where you're coming from. So not only will this type of information help to kind of illustrate your concern, but the information provided can also help others to see things from your perspective as well. So not only that, but them having that knowledge may allow them enough information to kind of substantiate their direction or maybe even address your concerns. Maybe even to the point where you actually see where they're coming from as well. Which of course will in turn allow the whole collaborative back and forth process to continue forward. Now, it'll take some time to get this right, and there's bound to be some growing pains in the process, and especially when you're getting used to working with a new group of people. So during that process, of course, something to keep in mind is that you also need to learn how to more effectively pick and choose your battles during these meetings. So if there's actually some like details or bits of minutia that you don't really agree with, you don't really have to call out every single little one. If it's not important enough, then just make a note and, or a list or something, and then, bring it up to that person specifically later. Because if you're in a meeting and you're calling out every little thing that gets brought up, it's really just going to stifle and slow down the process, and kind of runs the risk of giving everybody the impression that you're super critical or overly opinionated, which can run the risk of them really not wanting to work with you or possibly even share ideas. So instead, save the big callouts for more relevant issues, as details can be really hashed out later. But again, when you do so, make sure you're still providing specifics and quality feedback on the issues. Keep in mind there's a flip side to that coin as well. Whenever you're on the receiving end of feedback, whether it's criticism, suggestions, follow-up ideas, praise, whatever, like do your best to keep a level head, pay attention and just listen to what they have to say. Keeping a level head will not only help you to remain objective, but it'll also help you to really identify the core of whatever their feedback is as well, which honestly can actually be pretty crucial during various stages of development. For example, if someone comes up to you and says that the character of the NPC that you were working on is super overpowered and should immediately get removed from the game, first of all, don't overreact, but also don't leave it at that. Try to get whatever details you can, and ask them like why they feel that way, and in particular, find out what the circumstances were that actually led to them to that particular perception. So this can be particularly difficult at times, especially if the person doesn't know how to give quality feedback, or to give information that is actionable or quantifiable. But honestly though, even with minimal information, oftentimes you can actually start to kind of piece together the cause of their angst and kind of figure out what you could do to smooth out those edges a bit, or even if it actually needs it at all. So with all that being said, these types of collaborative meetings can seriously just be some of the most fun you'll ever have as a designer. I mean, you're chilling in a room with a bunch of gamer geeks and you're just going ham with the what ifs and trying to make things sound as just absolutely cool and badass as you can. The big twist here, however, is the fact that that's what you're going to be making a reality. I mean, that's a trip, huh? Make sure you're listening to everyone's ideas, offer feedback when possible, add your own flavor or twist to a concept that's being thrown about, like collaborate and bounce ideas off of each other and build up that hype. So I think I may have mentioned this before, but again, people tend to feel, or to get more excited about an idea when they're invested in it, and in turn, they tend to be more invested in it when they feel like they've had a part in the creative process itself. So hands down, one of the biggest and most difficult hurdles to get over as a designer, especially in a collaborative environment, is the ability to maintain a flexible and open mindset with your designs. And so what I mean by this is that the collaborative design process requires a lot of back and forth, ebb and flow, oftentimes with multiple people like throwing around all kinds of different ideas, or building upon the ideas of others during the conversation. And all in all, it actually gets pretty chaotic. And throughout this chaotic process, ideas and designs will often change quite a bit, depending on the flow of the meeting, who's involved, who's running it, what the purpose of the design actually is, as well as whatever the specific needs of the project are. As such, when you present an idea to the group, try not to hold on to it too tightly. Allow it the opportunity to breathe, grow and evolve. And in addition, try not to subvert or contradict feedback too harshly as well, because you run the risk of stifling the collaborative process. And to be perfectly honest, there's a really good chance that your initial idea will probably not be the best iteration of it as well. That being said, you should still be ready to defend or support your ideas when necessary. However, you also need to be ready to actually leave them behind as well if things happen to work out that way. So another potential tough position you may find yourself in at some point is there will be times when someone may approach you with feedback that may go against the overall direction of the design. And at times like this, you should still listen to their feedback in order to potentially smooth out some pain points. But that being said, you should always do your best to maintain the integrity of the design itself. While this particular scenario can happen during pretty much any phase of development, it often becomes a much more prominent issue during kind of like the balancing stages. This is especially true with competitive titles where players tend to feel more attached to a specific character, or a team or a weapon or something. So this can honestly be a pretty tricky balance. But if you're ever unsure about a decision, make sure you're consulting your lead or director for clarification. So when done well, collaboration is absolutely awesome. One person to be able to come up with, some amazing ideas, but solid collaboration with a team that is actively working together can dramatically speed up the process, raise the quality bar, and overall result in a more well-rounded design. Conversely, a team that doesn't communicate or collaborate properly will constantly be at odds with each other and causing everything to kind of stutter step throughout the process and often results in much more clunky or haphazard designs. So it is honestly going to take time and experience, but you and your team getting into that mindset will help your collaborative process immensely. You guys need to remember that you're all on the same team and you're all working towards making the best game you possibly can. So when you're collaborating, keep an open mind, listen to others, offer your own ideas as well as feedback on the ideas of others, and try to be as flexible and open-minded as you can be. And overall, just try to have fun. A good attitude actually goes a long way towards good designs. Good collaboration is another pretty essential aspect of game development, so hopefully I've given you some cool stuff to consider. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you guys are having fun with these. I know I'm having fun making them. So our next episode is going to be another interesting one where we talk about game analysis and inspiration. It's going to be kind of a higher level one, so we'll see how things go. All right, we'll see you then.